It's a new rise. Can somebody lift those hands tonight? It's a new rise. I need you to speak it over your own life tonight. It's a new rise. It's a new rise.
Hello, hello, hello. Megan DiMartino here, and I am so excited for today. Today is the launch of the Propel Deep Dive Local. I was speaking with Cody and Brad before we started, and it is the 20th anniversary of me coming to Georgetown, this New York girl deep in the heart of Texas with a serving, mentoring spirit. I was in Fort Worth for 17 years. I had been recruited by Alcon Laboratories, which is in Fort Worth, in 1987, and moved to Texas. I had no plan of opening a spa or anything in Georgetown, Texas, didn't even know it existed, but saw it the summer of 2003, was captivated and said, I need to pay attention. And I spoke to Mel Penland, who was the president of the chamber at that time. He shared that the toll road was already appropriated. The funds were appropriated. So I knew, having been in Fort Worth, Texas for 17 years and seeing the growth of that metroplex, I could see that with that circle around this area and ending in Georgetown, that this was a place to be. Location, location, location. I saw the square the summer of '03, as I shared, and it was market days. And I said, wow, this is a really unique place. But again, I didn't live here. I lived in Fort Worth, Texas, where I manufactured clinical skincare since 1992. I had a home, my own personal home, a warehouse, employees, but I just was so captivated by this area. And so as an esthetician, I took a one-room studio in a hair salon here, Rachel and Company, off of Williams Drive in Riverbend by the Pit Barbecue, and started Valentine's Day 2004. So 20 years ago, I came, and I didn't even live here. I drove back and forth when I wasn't traveling in business with the wholesale beauty distributors that carried my skincare brand, Novitas Spa Clinicals. In 2020, well, let me back up. So I started that and then decided it was time to live here after a year plus. And so I sold my home in Fort Worth, Texas, and moved lock, stock, and barrel, except for my warehouse and manufacturing that still remained in Fort Worth. I moved here to Georgetown, Texas. And then during that season, I met Janine Weisbrod and her husband, Randy. They were coming into the Gold's ladies department store. When I first saw on the square that summer of 2003, that whole strip that Harry Gold had owned, it was the general merchandise store and the ladies department store. I saw signs that said for sale, but I didn't, compute that at all. And then during 2004, when I was here and getting to know people, joined the chamber, I met Janine and Randy. And they were going into that building. And it was so much larger than where they had been next to Wildfire for that year. And so they said, would you like to come into the building with us? And so I started the first Novitas Spa on the Square in the building with Diva, and we opened 2005. During that season, Brian Farney, our landlord, divided up the general merchandise store and into 4 other stores. And I put a lease together with Brian and opened the first Novitas Spa on the Square in my own building in about 2007. And so evolved it from there to a medical spa and wellness spa. In 2020, I sold a portion of that, but not the trade name Novitas Spa, which is federally trademarked. I didn't sell the product line of the same name, and I didn't sell the URL, novitasspa.com. But during that season, before that happened, I started a podcast, and I called it Unique Leaders Live and Podcast. And I interviewed leaders and legends from around the world. And you can go to YouTube today under my name, Megan DiMartino, and you can see all of those and listen to all of those recordings of all those unique leaders. And then last year, I pivoted, I evolved, and started working with my brand that I've been building called Propel Your Business and Life Activation Business Program. I've started, scaled, and sustained 3 7-figure businesses. And so I felt it was time to give back. And so with that said, I started the Propel program. And then last year in March, I started the Propel Deep Dive. But it came to me that it was really time to interview leaders and legends from this local amazing town. I'm here now. I've shrunk the model and changed the model, and I'm now 115 West 9th Street, the Novita Beauty and Regenerative Wellness. But 3 of my employees have started their own businesses, and they're here with their own businesses, aesthetic and massage. And I do regenerative stem cell and vitamin infusions and infrared saunas, which we had been doing at the Novita Spa Medical Rejuvenation Clinic on 7th. But as I said, I shrunk the model to change the model. So I am here in the lobby, the boutique of the Novita Beauty and Regenerative Wellness. I'm looking out the window to 7th Street and then right on the corner of Austin. And so I'm here today to launch the Propel Deep Dive Local with leaders and legends. And who better to kick this time off? As I started to say, I could have gone back to the archives, and I will. And people that have been very involved and instrumental in building this amazing square. From back in the day when I started here on the square, it was dry. I don't know if you guys remember that. But you couldn't buy a drink in a restaurant. And now look at it, there's 3 wineries. So it has evolved in these 20 years. And that's what I want to bring to you, how this happened, the why, and the passion and purpose of the people that have been instrumental in building this amazing, not only the square, the historic Georgetown Square, but this wonderful town with an amazing heart. So I decided that I would invite 2 people that mean a lot to me for a reason that you will hear during my time of conversation with them, because that's what I want this to be. I want you to hear their stories. That's my past, that's my story, but I want you to hear their story. So without further ado, I'd like you to meet my first guest on the Propel Deep Dive Local with leaders and legends, Brad Strittmatter and Cody Hurt.
Hey, Megan.
Hello, guys.
How are you?
Oh, I'm blessed to have you both here. So blessed. So blessed. So normally what we do on the deep dive, and you can go back to YouTube as I shared, and you can hear all the unique leaders and the Propel Deep Dive since last March. I ask you both, I'm going to ask both of you to just share a little nugget of who you are, because people know you're Mesquite Creek Outfitters and Golden Rule and River and Ranch Provision, but they may not know you. And a little nugget of who you are, where you began, and what brought you to Texas, and what brought you to start your first business here on the square, which is Mesquite Creek Outfitters. So whoever wants to go first, go first.
Okay, yeah, I'll go first, I guess. So I'm Brad, and I grew up in a military family. My dad was a career military guy, and we grew up all over the country. We moved every couple of years, but Texas was always kind of home base to us because my dad grew up on a small farm in North Texas. And so during the summers, our family vacations would be to the family farm. And I always kind of knew that I wanted to get back to Texas. That was where home was going to be for me. And my wife grew up the same way, and we ended up at the same college and got married not too long after college and lived in Houston for a while. But I went to school in San Marcos and really wanted to get back into the Austin area. So I guess about 15 years ago, Cody and I were friends from college, and about 15 years ago, he convinced me to move to Georgetown, and probably the best decision other than marrying my wife that I've ever made. But my wife, Stacy, and I have been married for almost 25 years now, and we've got 3 boys. We've got a junior in high school, a freshman in high school, and a 4th grader. And I think growing up, I always thought I would move every few years since that's the way we grew up. But once we got to Georgetown, I knew that this was it for me and Stacy. This was home for us. And so for the last 15 years, that's what it's been. And I'll let Cody kind of dive into, his background and
Right.
sort of our business evolution here in Georgetown.
Yeah, so I grew up out in West Texas on a little farm and ranch out in the middle of nowhere, about an hour south of Midland. And I knew that whenever I graduated, I wanted to get to places where they had stuff that we didn't have out there, like trees and water. And I joke about it, and it's so true. I went to San Marcos, and it had everything. And like Brad said, that's where I met him. Upon graduating, I kind of went on a Texas tour, if you will. I worked in Dallas for a little bit. I worked in Houston. And at that time, Brad was actually working in Houston too. And I worked at a golf course. He worked at a hotel. And so we actually started our entrepreneurship at that time by putting together some stay and play packages and just a lot of fun stuff. But what I found was I was just a little too far from home. That was about an 8-hour drive back out to the ranch. And so I knew I wanted to be somewhere in between. And Austin, North Austin at that time is where I thought it was going to be. And back in 2003, I went on this little website called monster.com, and there was this ad, and it said, do you like airplanes? Do you like cells? Well, if so, this job could be yours. And growing up, I flew all the time with my dad. And I was in the sales business anyways at that time. And I thought this would be perfect. And it was this little place up here called Georgetown, and it was a company called Gant Aviation. And I went through 4 or 5 interviews, and I think on the 5th interview, Johnny Gant actually asked me, he said, hey, we're a very family-oriented company here, and if you're dating somebody and you're pretty serious about her, we'd like to meet her too. So I brought up who I was dating at that time, which soon after became my wife, Jordana. And I joke about it, but I think she's really the one who got me the job, not the interviews. But that's kind of how I found Georgetown and found this as home. Over the years, I worked with Johnny from 2003 until probably 2012. And Brad came in, I think sometime around 2010. At that point, I had been married. I got married back in 2006. To my wife, Jordana, who's also from West Texas. And on March 25th, which is coming up, we'll be celebrating 18 years. And we've got two little kids. I've got an 8th grader and I've got a 5th grader. But yeah, so Brad came up about 2010, and he and I decided, let's start our own company here in Georgetown. So we started at that time a company called Shepherd Aviation, which buys and sells aircraft. And we specialized in all King Air and Citation aircraft products, and absolutely loved it. We had so much fun developing that concept and growing the business. But what we found is that the market really followed, the airplane sales market followed the oil market. And what that meant to us is about in 2013, 14, 15, things went flat for us. So Brad and I started looking for ways to diversify. And one of the ways we thought about was, well, let's take the hangar that we're in and create an FBO with a diner in it. So that people could come up, they could get fuel, and at the same time, we'll have like this really cool World War II themed diner. And we came up with this great business plan, we thought, and went and met with our CPA. And he said, well, this is a decent plan, but your clientele list is very narrow. You're looking for people that own a plane and want to fly to your place to eat. He goes, but he used this passion. He used this word. He said, but this is your passion, so I'll support it. And I think at that time we thought, well, that's not our passion. We're just trying to diversify and make a little money so that we can keep our houses and keep our families happy. And he said, well, what are your passions? And at that time we said, craft beer and the outdoors. And he said, well, try to do something with that. It's like, there's nothing we can do with that. And so left his office pouting. And his office is a little building right across from what is now the Golden Roll. So literally walked out of that pouting, and I walked down to the square. And I walked by All Things Kids. Then I walked down by Roots. Then I walked down by one of my wife's and our favorite buildings that we've ever come across. And at that time, it was 704 South Austin Avenue. Gorgeous building, beautiful interior, and no one had done anything to it in forever. And my wife and I used to put our eyes and our hands on the window every time we came by, waiting for someone else to do it. And when I did it that day, a guy taped up a for lease sign literally in my face. So I knocked on the door and just visited with him for a minute. Said, "Hey, look, we have no idea what we can put in here, but what can we do to hold it for a couple of months for us to try to figure something else out?" And he said it would take 1 month's rent. And lucky for me, I'd just been at the CPA office, so I had a checkbook on me, which happens probably once a year, you know. And so I wrote him a check. Went home and told my wife Jordana, and she said, "Oh my gosh, this is awesome! It's going to be a retail store." And I was like, "No, Brad and I already talked. It's going to be a craft beer and wine store." So we kind of started going back and forth with what it should be, and we developed it so that whichever business took off could push the other one right out either the front door or the back door. And I'll tell you what, this was the only thing in my entire life, as far as business goes, that I felt 100% confident that this is what we were supposed to be doing. And I had this crazy piece about me that whether we succeeded or failed, we were supposed to do it. And so it was one of the easiest and most amazing processes I've ever been part of in my life.
Yeah, when you are, walking in your purpose or passion, as you said, as that man, that what a great advice that guy gave you, or a question to you, to be aware of that. But when you're walking in your field of favor, so to speak, then the doors and steps, you'd have to take the first step, but the second and third step will be revealed to you if you're in that zone. It truly is. Absolutely. It's like Georgetown. Why am I in Georgetown? I was guided here. And it's the same thing, that I knew as I knew, no matter what I did, that being here was what I was supposed to do, and what happened with it, like you said, Cody, would evolve, would fall into place. So, the other piece of what you shared of timeline is you saw the building, you looked into the window in 13. You said 13 or 14?
Oh, that was actually in 16.
In 16. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. When you gave that 1 month rent.
That's right.
Okay. Because when I came to Georgetown, I shared in my intro, it was dry. I mean, the square was dry. And, the restaurants did not stay because they couldn't bring people down. And so there was nothing here. And then whenever I meant to look this up, but when the county started to remodel the courthouse, they put a wall around the entire perimeter of parking for over a year. So you take a dry city with no parking, how can anything sustain? So only by the grace of God am I even standing here, But in 2009, Bob Huntley, who was the president of the DGA, Downtown Georgia Association, knocked on Novitas Spa's door and came in and said, "Megan, I need you." I said, "Okay, for what?" And he said, "Because we have to raise the funds to get the winery initiative, as he called it, onto the ballot." So we did all sorts of crazy things to raise funds to hire this attorney who knew how to get it on the ballot. And once it got on the ballot, it passed, and then the rest is history. Can you imagine this town with 3 wineries and all these restaurants not being dry? So it's those moments, those sparks that take things and bring them to the next step. And so you guys opened in 2016. I remember that business very clearly because, like you said, the building rather, it was beautiful building, always has been, and all different things trying to go in there, but never sustained at all. So it was just that in and out type of thing, which really the square was for years. But one of the things it had, like I said in the intro, the proximity, it was right on 35. So it's now becoming, or has become, this destination location. But you guys opened in 2016, and I just am I'm not amazed anymore, but back in the day when I would leave Novita on 7th and go out, and the street was full of people hanging out. Wasn't just inside, it became the place to hang out. So share a little bit about that, because this interview or this conversation that we're having, and as Harry Gold said, just a conversation away, people will listen to this all over the world. So share with our guests, that amazing dynamic that just happened.
Well, I think like we've always felt that the square is kind of the heart of Georgetown. And for the longest time, like you said, it was sort of a little bit of a ghost town for a long period of time. And that change from what it was to what it is now started back in the 80s with the Main Street program, and then DGA coming in and all that stuff. So there's like all of this work that went into it to make it what it is today. And, from our history here, we always kind of said that the square was where restaurants went to die. And I'll never forget some friends of ours who had a pizza place here in town were looking at the spot where 600 is now. And we thought like, man, guys, I don't know that that's a good idea. They were out on Williams Drive and doing great. Like, guys, I don't know if the square is right, especially a little bit off the square. And 600 came in and crushed it. And that was a big indicator for us. Mm-hmm. They opened a little less than a year ahead of MCO. That was a big indicator for us that like, okay, you can come down here and be successful. You got to give people a reason to come. And we looked at Mikey V's and Roots and you and Brazos Market and all these other amazing local businesses that had come in and had been successful. And we went around and we talked to everybody. We're like, what else do you want to see? Like, what would be a good complementary business to put down here? And our whole thing from day one is just being community, right? We don't care why people come to the square, whether it's to see us or to go over to Good Folks or to go to Roots or to go to, wherever. It's we just want them to come to the square because eventually they're going to find us. And we say it till we're blue in the face, but a rising tide raises all ships. So let's raise the whole tide of downtown Georgetown and give this great little area, like give our town this heart. We need stuff like Wolf Ranch and, Chili's and Applebee's and, Chick-fil-A and all that stuff. We just need that as a growing town, but the square needs to have this personality. And that's what all these individual local business owners bring is heart and soul and personality to the square.
Yeah, but it's, as I said, it just made it, like you said, heart and soul. And that is just that centrifugal force of the heart and soul of MCO and going in. And like you said earlier, Cody, whether they buy, I've bought clothes there. I've bought, all sorts of things, gifts and stuff. But it's also just, so it's a retail location, absolutely. But it's also that meeting place. And it has that heart. It's just so unique. And then share the evolution then to Golden Rule, because very different type of business.
Oh, absolutely. And just going back real quick to Mesquite Creek, I don't think anyone, especially ourselves, ever thought it would take off like it did. And we're so blessed. And one of the highest compliments we've ever been given is someone calling it Georgetown's living room.
Yes.
And that's just incredible. And we've had, I think up to date now, we've had 4 or 5 weddings. We've had 15 or 16 proposals, but it's become a meeting place of, like Brad said, community. And in the Air Force world where Brad came from, and in the farming, ranching world where I came from, you had to have community. You had to rely on each other for so many different things, and for support in tough times and celebrations and great times. And that's what Mesquite has become. We've had after funerals meetups in there, and it's become a very, very personal place because we've met some of our best friends in the world there. And what I love is how many people share those same stories. They say, hey, here's a picture of us back Thanksgiving 2 years ago, and here's a picture of us now at Thanksgiving, and you'll notice there's 45 people in this picture, and when we moved here, we knew 9. We met the other 43 here at Mesquite Creek, and to us, that's just a testament that we were supposed to do this. and it's such a blessing. And most days, it doesn't feel like work. Um, but now to the evolution of the Golden Rule, it's a fantastic beer and wine place. It saved us from driving to Austin to have to go buy the clothes that we wanted. It was a place for us to be able to show off all these great local talents that made clothing and bars of soap and all sorts of amazing stuff. But what we didn't have was a really good bourbon bar. Mm-hmm. And bourbon is kind of my baseball cards now. Growing up as a kid, I was addicted to collecting baseball cards. Now I'm addicted to collecting bourbon. And so we really wanted to find a place, for a really nice bourbon bar. Well, we waited for the perfect time. We were waiting for a pandemic to happen. And fortunately for us, COVID struck. And we were about 5 or 6 months into building what we thought was going to be our bar. And we later found out that we couldn't just have a bar here in Georgetown. And with COVID, they weren't opening up new bars. They were only opening up restaurants. And so we thought, well, let's turn this into a restaurant. Let's look back at the stuff that we enjoyed eating from different vacations, what we grew up eating as kids, and come up just with this beautiful place. And so with the help of a few great local friends here, we bought the building, remodeled it, and we wanted it to feel almost like a little speakeasy-ish. But, kind of falling back on the name of it, it's called the Golden Rule. We wanted it to be a place that was not pretentious. We wanted it to be a place to where when you've worked in a kitchen all your life and all you've heard were screams and cussing, we wanted it to be a place to where it was a safe kitchen, if you will, where we treated each other with respect and dignity. And I think a testament to that is since we opened in June of 2020, I think we've only lost 2 kitchen staff members, which is unheard of. And the majority of our front of the house people are still there as well. And it's just, I think that what it is, it's people truly buy into treat others as you want to be treated.
The Golden Rule. That's it. It's a stunning place. And I've hosted many birthday parties and girl night out, and love the wall with the Golden Rule, the photo wall. And but it's very eclectic and very warm and inviting. It's just the right size, in my opinion. And because it has the outdoor patio, it's just lovely, really is. But I love the point that, again, you were supposed to do it the way you've done it because you couldn't just have a bourbon bar, so you were guided into what it is. So it's, that's why I want people to hear your story and every other guest, because you might have, as I said to Angeline before you came, it's the journey. It's not that destination. It's the joy of what you're doing and how you're doing it and bringing all of this to this community. But now people all over the country are coming to Georgetown and probably the world as well. So, then recently, in the last couple of years, you opened the River and Ranch Provision. So, I kind of understand what I call it, the Ralph Lauren man cave. It's just stunning, from a design position. But share, I can see why with both of your backgrounds, but why this came, why that evolution, but from restaurants and what you're doing, yes, retail, but why that?
Yeah, I would say this was more of a passion project. Again, we looked around at the square and we saw all of these wonderful businesses. We said, what are we missing? Well, we're missing a high-end gun and fly fishing store. It's a place that, Brad and I have traveled, all the way to Houston just to go look at a gun store. And, we left at 10 a.m. and got back at, 7 or 8 p.m. just to go to a gun store because it was nice and it was something fun and it became an adventure. And that's what we wanted to create right here in Georgetown. We thought it would complement the square and the other businesses on the square.
It's absolutely beautiful. And it's done in the same elegance that, but unique to its own as your other businesses. And that's the other, I truly, as a business builder and marketer and branding person in business, is that's truly unique and a testament to both of you, is how unique each business is. alone. They don't compete with each other. They truly complement each other in your aesthetics and the essence of it, but they're very unique businesses. And it's just a testament to you and your professionalism and brilliance. So this brings me to the why of Cody and Brad for Megan's first Leaders and Legends. In 2020, when I sold the asset purchase, so to speak, and the gentleman that bought that, which essentially got the beautiful location, all of that I did, in 2007, 8. Goodness gracious, I'm still asked, do you have a steam room? I mean, it was a work of art. It could, it was a very European steam room. But the new owner, Brian Farney, sold the buildings after I sold my business. And the person that bought my business decided not to stay. Why? I have no idea. But the new owner, why he did this also, I do not know. But I was driving down 6th Street and I saw 2 huge dumpsters in the back of the building. And I pulled in because I'm inherently curious. And I pulled in, and the back door of my building was open. And there was a guy standing there with a hard hat and a reflector vest. And I went, oh. And I then went up to and I almost passed out because the whole place was gutted. And I asked this guy, when did you take the wall down? With the 16-foot mural of the Tuscan hillside, a 3-dimensional, hand-painted. It was Chris Burkle. I mean, it's like Michelangelo on the scaffolding all summer and doing the faux ceiling of clouds like Caesar's Palace. And he said, I don't know. I said, does anyone know? Because I would have gone into the dumpsters. I would have, to get a piece of that wall. I would have. And so he got his manager, and he came out, and I identified myself, and he went like, oh, he said to me, I kept calling them, are you sure? Are you sure? And so I said, is that wall in these dumpsters? He said, no, that was yesterday. So that was gone. And I really was one of those moments where I just broke down. But what I recognized with prayer and time, that it was the old wineskin, and that God was saying it's time to do new. And so I just, so it was empty though for quite a while because it was taken down to the studs. And so but as I shared with you guys, there's so much prayer was in that building. And I just would pray about the right business, the right people to go in there, to carry on Harry's vision and my vision, because I was there for 17 years. And so when I heard that it was you, oh my God. So as I shared a minute ago, how each business is so unique. So folks, if you do not know anyone from Georgetown or this Austin area, and do not know that 109 West 7th Street, Suite 110 is going to become
It's going to be a breakfast, lunch, and dinner, diner-style, burger-centric restaurant.
And its name is?
Goldberg.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Love it.
Yeah, the 1940s style. What I envision is your grandparents back in the 1940s came in and built this amazing restaurant. It passed the generation, then it went to the grandkids back in the 80s, and I think that's kind of explains the feel and the look of the place.
So you said breakfast. So what are the time of the restaurant going to be open?
So 7 to 8 every day. 7 to 8.
8 every day. Wow, that's fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. So, like you said, Cody, that you envisioned this, and I'm not saying that you even had a plan, But did you say along the way of building these other 3 businesses, this is what is needed here? Or was that a conversation between the 2 of you and your other partners or people involved? I mean, what's the genesis of the evolution to the building? What brought it to this, essentially where you are right now, getting ready to open?
Yeah, I mean, I think that for a long time we've wanted a really cool old-fashioned diner down here. A place to where you can come and get a cup of coffee in the morning. My dad and grandpa's used to go to the co-op gin, and that's where they'd meet, and that's where they'd fuss and discuss every single day. And so we wanted to kind of create that environment for people. But also, I was raised on a show called Saved by the Bell, and they had an awesome diner, right? And so I want to provide my kids with an opportunity to cheer on Bayside, and which will be our 2 high schools here, maybe 3 in the future. But I want a place where kids can come and hang out and have a good time. But I also want a really cool, aesthetically pleasing place to where the parents come. Maybe they think back to their first dates whenever they had a milkshake or something, and they shared one with 2 straws. But we want to create memories. That's really memories and experiences. That's what we care about.
That is truly what you both are about, memories and experiences. Absolutely. When do you expect to open?
Oh, yeah, I don't know what the price tag question is, but we're hoping here in the next couple of months. Things are really moving. Things are progressing wonderfully. The city has been amazing to work with. We've got some great trades moving in and out of there. So it's time. We actually just posted the other day that we're starting to look for back of the house, in front of the house managers, and that's I think a pretty good indicator that we're getting super close.
Yeah, that's exciting. So this is into March, so mid-March, I guess. So before summer, you'll open.
We hope, yeah. We keep saying like late spring, early summer, because it's kind of hard to quantify that. So you never know what's going to pop up between now and then, but I think we're close enough now. We feel comfortable with saying that.
Well, I think it's funny too. You'll never hear us say what year. We'll say, I think it's opened by Red Poppy, but we don't say this year or next year.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, by Christmas stroll.
Yeah. We've used that one before.
Right.
Yep.
Well, but you've used the space creatively, because that's when I first, it was Christmas stroll 2 years ago. The doors were open. Mm-hmm. And I went over, and that's when I found out that I saw the sign was down above. And as I was walking, kind of jogging around the square one night, I was like, wow, what's going on? And the door open, and you were serving, selling beer and wine. So I was like, yay. So that is so exciting. Well, as we close, gentlemen, and thank you again. I know you're doing, and so many things involved, not only with this restaurant, but other businesses. But I always ask my guests, and you said it a teeny bit earlier, but now this is years later. I always ask my guests as we close, what is your passion and what is your purpose?
Well, that's a great question. I think over the years, especially with opening Mesquite Creek and getting up to be a part of this community, I always knew I loved serving other people, but this has brought an opportunity to serve a community, not only with our hands and our bodies and physical labor, but also with the space. We've had so many amazing charities come in, and they've been able to raise the funds that they need. We've put on events to where we've raised $30,000 to $40,000 a night to help people with cancer issues, or someone who needed a vehicle so they could start supporting their family, and it's just a testament not only to being in the right place, but knowing that God put you in the right place and in the right community that wants to step up and serve as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, and I think community. I want our kids to see that life is bigger than just us, and if we serve, then, and it's not why we serve, but a nice benefit of serving is to get that back. And as we try to help be a small piece of growing this community gives back so much to us. And it was never more apparent than during COVID, when we had to shut down and that outpouring of love and support that we got from this community was just a testament that we could show our kids that, like, listen, like, we live in this amazing place. And I went to 3 different high schools in 3 different states, and I get to watch my kids all have the same teachers and coaches and go through all this stuff and know folks in the community. And it's so amazing. And it's just a special feeling. And that's so much more important than any one particular business or money or, anything like that. So the community for me has just been huge.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, as I shared earlier, this New York girl, I mean, who would have thunk it to be in Georgetown, Texas? There's a statement, you guys have heard it, I'm from X, but I got here as fast as I could, and so actually right now, I have lived in Texas 37 years. I'm going to give my age. And I was 37 when I moved here to Texas. So I've lived here in Texas as long as I was a worker. So I guess I'm a Texan now, huh?
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's fair.
So guys, again, I thank you so much. And we are blessed to be part of this. God guided me, guided you guys, and we're part of the fabric of this amazing town, which is right off 35. It's never going to change, as they say in real estate, location, location, location. So we are here serving this amazing community. And as we know from coming up, an event coming soon, 2 Step In, right?
Mm-hmm.
All over the world coming, South by Southwest. So now Georgetown is on the map. As a matter of fact, you both appreciate this as we close. When I decided to move here and do my business, a very well-known esthetician from Austin who used my products said, Megan, George Patch? Like,
Yep.
here, you go to George Patch and started. And so now I have the last laugh, and she's no longer in business. So with that said, thank you for joining me on the first inaugural flight, guys, you're in aviation, of the Novitop Deep Dive Local with leaders and legends. Thank you so very much. And I'll see
you, Megan.
Burger.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Megan. Appreciate you.
Hello, peace. Hello, joy.